All right, he's going around too, by the way. for those of you
Thanks for having me on here tonight.
Thanks for coming.
You're welcome. I'm done. See you later. No, this is helicopter utilization, landing zone safety. Real quick, a little about myself. I've been in this position for almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in November. I was a dispatcher for them for 6.5 years. They shut us down, so I got this job because I didn't want to go to Omaha. Aviation background is what I have. I have no clinical background. I'm not a firefighter. I played one on a Navy ship for 4 years. Everybody's a firefighter, but my background is aviation safety and stuff like that. So, and I'm getting ready to retire from the Guard. Yeah, objectives for tonight, describe the role of the pre-hospital provider in landing zone operations, identify appropriate air ambulance utilization and selection criteria, examine the processes including selecting, marking, and securing landing zones, as well as patient preparation and loading, and discuss operations associated with crash recovery, because that does happen. A little bit of history. They were first used in World War II with that awesome aircraft over there in Burma in the Pacific. And then in MASH, they were transported on the sides of the aircraft in the Korean War. It's supposed to say the golden hour. That's 60 minutes from when somebody gets traumatic injury to reach the hospital. Their survival chances increase, and helicopters can make that happen very quickly. Civilian use in 1972, St. Anthony's, Denver, Colorado. That is now our great-great-great-grandfather. They're part of us, Air Methods. And that Rocky Mountain, then Air Methods. So they're related to us. And real quick, Air Methods, we are the largest air medical provider in the world. We are 70 plus services in 47, 48 states. We have 400 plus helicopters, I think 21 fixed wing aircraft. If we were an airline, we have the 5th largest fleet. So,
Wow.
but unlike services like Life Flight Eagle or Airvac, we kind of let each service have their own branding, and we're the parent company, Air Methods is. So, it's run by a Vietnam vet, and today there are hundreds of medical helicopters operating in the U.S. In Missouri, the first one was in Kansas City. It's Life Flight Eagle. They're in West Central and Northwest Missouri. And in St. Louis, it was initially MARC, M-A-R-C. I don't know what that stands for. And then it became ARCH, A-R-C-H, not because of the Gateway Arch. It's Area Resource Consortium of Hospitals. That's what it stands for. And they just kept it ARCH. And it was Barnes Hospital, St. Louis University, I think Creve Coeur, St. John's and Creve Coeur, which has since been renamed. Staff for Life was the 3rd program in the state because of Dr. Frank Mitchell. He was the program medical director for a long time. He's now program director emeritus. And the guy on the left, Dr. Llanos, is no longer with the service. He's been replaced by Dr. Bill Dennis. Dr. Dennis is our, he's the medical part of it. And Dr. Kopenauer, he's a Missouri boy. He grew up, he's from Randolph County, grew up in Kansas City as a medic. And he worked his way up, and now he's our trauma surgeon, trauma director. And he is one smart cookie. The base locations for staff: University Hospital there in Columbia. That's our old helicopter, the BK. Oops, sorry. Sorry. Base locations. University of Missouri, Staff 1. There we go. Established in 1982. That's the old Staff 2, actually. Yeah, I'd like to fly that thing today. was a BK-117, it's now a 902. That was a workhorse. Our new one is a super workhorse. It says currently an EC-135. No, it's not. It's a 902. Staff 2 is at Lake Regional Hospital in Osage Beach. The helipads are on the left-hand side of the hospital, two white circles. This 1985 was when they started. It is an A-star, AS-350. And Staff 3 is in Lamont, Missouri, in between Sedalia and Warrensburg on Highway 50 on the north side of the highway. You can see it from the highway. That was established in 2005. Each aircraft operates in approximately 120-mile radius. I would say a 60-mile radius. If you go 120 miles in one direction, you're going to pass over probably 4 other helicopters that could do the same thing, kind of. We transport them either to Columbia, we prefer back to Columbia, Jeff City, St. Louis, Kansas City, Osage Beach, and Springfield. And considerations for where we go. The main one, if the patient is alert and oriented, and say they're from Kansas City or from St. Louis, and they say, hey, my cardiologist is in Kansas City or St. Louis, we'll honor their wishes. If your med crew thinks it would be okay for the patient to travel that far. The weather, that makes a difference too. If they want to go to Kansas City and there's a line of storms in Kansas City, we're not going that way. We're coming back to University. Sorry. Trauma regulations. I mean, if you got amputation, we're not going to Kansas City. We're bringing you back to University. And the closest, most appropriate hospital one possible. That same thing as the one above it, really. It's Boone, chemical or thermal. We'll bring them back to University. They got a burn unit. If it's a real bad one, we'll probably go to get them to University first, stabilize them as much as possible, and then we'll probably have to transport them down to Mercy Hospital in Creve. They've got an outstanding burn unit down there in St. Louis. Today, there are over 30 air ambulances in Missouri, 34 to be exact, I think. That's where they are. There's one now in Randolph County in Moberly, up in Hannibal, if anybody's know where that is, Marion County, the northeast corner. There's one up there. I would consider Quincy, which is right across the river. They have airback all over there. Survival flight is in Jefferson County, just below St. Louis. And then Mercy Lifeline has one in Joplin, also one in Rogers, Arkansas, and then somewhere else. The black dots are all in the middle, are all the staff aircraft. Why the emphasis on safety? Every year, crashes occur in the U.S., and you'll hear about it because it's media worthy. It's a bad thing. Many are preventable, mainly pilot error, poor weather conditions, and increased risk of scene work and night flying. But the last two, we have solutions for. Well, I mean, pilot error we have solutions for too. Better training. Weather conditions, staff 1 is going to go in IFR, which means they can fly in reduced weather conditions. Lower ceilings, which is the lowest full cloud deck, and lower visibility. And the increased risk of scene work and night flying. All 2 of the 3 crew members are going to have night vision goggles on. It's mandatory. So, who can call? Any EMS provider, first responder, firefighter, law enforcement, dispatch center, medical facility. We had a pilot, a foreign pilot, awesome pilot. He left on good terms. He went over to work as a contractor in Afghanistan, or Iraq, I think. And he was at a football or soccer game rather. One of the girls broke her femur. He called, said, "Hey, we need a helicopter," and he was neither one of those. And they said we need to call from the dispatch center or from an ambulance service. So your role is critical in maintaining safe landing operations. It's also for your guys' safety too. Definitely, it's for anybody who's in and around the landing zone. The helicopter, you guys, ambulance crews, it's for everybody's safety. Responsible for deciding when to call a helicopter, communicating appropriate information to dispatch centers and pilots, selecting and securing the landing zone, control of activity in and around the landing zone. That last one It's great, yeah, it's very important because I've seen crazy things happen to a landing zone. Deciding when, who can call, what are the scene considerations, which patient should fly, hangnail no, broken femur yes. Which air ambulance should you call? I think we know. Scene considerations, the need for speed. Air transport will be quicker than ground, especially in very rural areas. Traffic conditions exist to delay transport. St. Louis, they have Arch Helicopter as an aircraft in Granite City. It's right across the river. It's a 4-minute flight from them to Arch Base, which is where the maintenance facility and refuel facility is. They'll fly 8-minute flights from East St. Louis hospitals, Belleville hospitals to St. Louis all day long because the traffic on the bridge, even in an ambulance with lights and sirens going, is crazy. So they'll do those flights all day long. Patient is in an inaccessible area, in the valley, cliff, something. Prolonged extrication times, disaster, multi-patient scenes. Multiple and critical patients require air transport and utilization of multiple aircraft response. We just did one in Benton County / Henry County, Brown County line, 6 aircraft, 4 different services. Staff Alive, MedFlight, Mercy Lifeline, and Life Flight Eagle. They had airback inbound but canceled because the patient expired, so it was in 5 services and 7 aircraft. It's a little hectic when you're dispatching all that stuff. And your ground resources may be exhausted, something like that. All the ground resources available are exhausted also, so. And any weather that precludes ground transport, if it's icy conditions, if you can get to the patient and it's a 30-minute ride and it's icy, it's gonna be longer than 30 minutes, so you can land there on scene or close to it, and then transport via that way. Which patient should fly? Any patient with a time-related illness, TCDs. Anybody know what TCD is? Time critical diagnosis, STEMI stroke, trauma. Obvious injury versus potential injury. Obvious injury, open head wound, spine, chest wound, flail chest, or an open chest wound, abdomen, orthopedic, any kind of deformity, burns, full thermal. He was probably transported.
What is that?
What kind of, what was,
Better.
Fence
I didn't
post?
have that picture. That, they put it in here. I mean, he looks to be, you know,
Did you make it?
alert. Well, alert, but awake. He's moving his arms on the top one. Yeah. That'd be hard to transport on a helicopter. Potential injury, there's your bruising from a seatbelt. And there's your burns, you have facial burns. Mechanism of injury. Any exchange of forces that results in injury, they can prick those injuries. They may be present or not obvious, some kind of internal injury. Falls of 20 feet or more. I've been told some 911 centers do 10 feet or more, 12 foot or more, 15 foot or more, 20 feet or more. Death of another passenger in the same vehicle. Ejection or partial ejection from a vehicle. If the passenger space is invaded by 1 foot or more on the patient's side, and a pedestrian or bicyclist struck by auto with speeds greater than 5 miles per hour. Greater than 20 minutes of extrication time. That's not from the time of the accident, that's from the time you guys get on scene with your equipment and start cutting that car up. If it takes more than 20 minutes, we can be anywhere in our service area probably within 20 minutes, so. A rollover accident, especially unrestrained, blast injuries, and the last one was like wave runners, stuff like that, bogey injuries. Which patients cannot fly. If the patient is combative and cannot be chemically or physically restrained, he will not be flying. On the A-stars, staff 2 and staff 3, they are right next to the pilot when they're loaded. They could reach over and grab the pilot and something, but in the 902 that's going to be here tonight, there's a partition between the pilot and the med space. Patients weight are patients whose weight or size exceed the limit of aircraft.
What's the limit of the aircraft, or does it depend on the aircraft?
It depends on the aircraft. Staff 2 and Staff 3, the A-Stars, they're single engine. Those depend on they have a more finicky weight and balance issue. It depends on the crew on that day. If they're a smaller crew, they take a larger patient, which is kind of silly. I mean, that's the way it works out, but you got 2 little nurses like this, and they're loading some guy who's 450 pounds, they're gonna need some help. But their max weight is roughly between 400 and 450, depending on the crew.
Okay.
The 902, you'll see later on, it's 500. Only thing limiting more is the loading system, and they'll show you that out there when they get here. Oh, by the way, the crew on tonight, you guys got a good crew. It's going to be our lead pilot and our chief flight nurse are there, and then our medic. I mean, not to disparage him or anything, but he's just a medic. Just joking. But it's the chief flight nurse and our lead pilot for the service. So, psychiatric emergencies. Once again, if they can't be physically or chemically restrained, same thing. We don't want it. Prisoners requiring a guard. We don't take prisoners. Our helicopter does take prisoners. The guard will just surrender his weapon to the pilot. He puts it in a secure location, and then they transport. Uncontrolled violence at scenes. We've had that happen. They'll put us on standby for high-risk search warrants. I would consider that uncontrolled violence at a scene if something breaks out. So we're not going to land on scene until they get the person who's being served in custody, if they need to be. Hazmat patients that are not decontaminated. The patient must be decontaminated prior to transport, and we will not fly into uncontrolled hazmat scenes. We will not fly into a chlorine cloud. That's bad for everybody.
Are the restrictions on combative patients because they could move around a bunch and mess up the balance of the craft, or is it because they could hurt the pilot?
Hurt the pilot and the aircraft. If they were the crew or the pilot, but they can, I mean, like I said, all our nurses aren't 6'2" and 250 pound big guys. If they can get out and, harm the crew, incapacitate the crew somehow, they could reach through and probably get to the pilot, or they could open the door and jump out, and that's not good for anybody. It's just safety. We're all about safety. From the time they walk to the aircraft, where they start doing their walk around, to the time they get on the ground, load the patient, and do their final walk around before they lift off. It's all about safety. So with so many air ambulances, how do you know who to call? Closest, fastest, and what resources are available. There you have Arch Helicopter, that's our sister company, Arch Helicopter. Life Flight Eagle, Airvac, and Staff for Life. I'm not sure why this does this. Goal for any caregiver is always what's best for the patient's outcome. That is very true. Like I said, I have never been medical. Don't have clinical background, but from day one, as a dispatcher, I was always trying to find the closest, most appropriate aircraft, and I got in trouble a lot of times because I sent the wrong aircraft, but it was the closest, most appropriate one. It was still our company, but still. And I would still do that. How do we reach that goal? As you can see, it's probably education, equipment, and training. There's supposed to be a video there, but it's not playing. What does Staff for Life bring to the table? We are the only service in the state other than Cox Air Care 1 in Springfield, the Cox South, that carries blood on board the aircraft. We carry 2 units of O-negative blood on board each aircraft. They have their own refrigerator for that and their medicine, or their medications, whatever. And we have an agreement with the blood bank at the university. It will expire, so before it expires, we bring it back to the university and switch it out with other stuff that we can take back to the bases. The university will use it before we use it, so it doesn't go to waste. People aren't donating blood for no reason. We don't want to waste it, so. And it carries oxygen, so if it's a trauma and they're losing blood, I would consider us the closest, most appropriate, even if it's 10 minutes farther. Advanced protocols including RSI, rapid sequence innovation and advanced area procedures, stemming and stroke protocols. You guys know what stemming and strokes are?